After the gathering, I was lost. I had let Christianity fall from my hands like under a waterfall. I had watched a friendship crack. I had felt a god of the underworld move through my body. And now I was back home, trying to figure out what came next. Just before this gathering, I had told my clients that I was going to work with them until the end of August, and one of those clients was a Christian minister. I was developing unique material for her, and with every moment I worked on it, my heart wrenched after this gathering. I felt spiritual pressure every time I turned to do work for that page. I got through it, but it felt like something was punishing me for promoting God. Probably just my own grief attacking me. I recalled calling Gabriel and telling him how much it hurt and asking, "What have I done?" I knew the future lay ahead and that I would need to seek out a spiritual future, a different divine law, but I didn't know where to start. Randomly, I came across a practice called Ho'oponopono. It's not the original term for the original practice, but I can't actually find the original term for it, so we're just gonna call it Ho'oponopono. But it's the act of restoring Pono. So I started studying up on this practice and found bits and pieces of the original practice, a communal ceremony which was used for apologizing and forgiving others. Somewhere in this fog, I noticed something strange. Remember X from many episodes back, the former Buddhist monk I had met in Hawaii, the one who would pass notes about spiritual topics on our first day of meeting? Well, X had this uncanny way of finding me on Facebook whenever I was going through something spiritually significant. He'd just show up, send a message through Messenger, check in at exactly the right moment. But this time he wasn't reaching out, and that kind of felt wrong, like a pattern had broken. So I thought, well, maybe this time it's my turn to reach out to him. I considered what I could ask. Supe had been surprisingly kind during Gabriel's ceremony, but I didn't have a deep connection with them, and I didn't want one. The gods I felt most drawn to were the gods of Hawaii. I had lived in their land. I had stood up on the needle in Maui and received a prophecy from a kahuna. Maybe there was something I could explore there. Maybe my finding Ho'oponopono practice wasn't a coincidence. Maybe it was something I was intended to pursue. And then there was a Bible verse. Choose for yourselves this day whom you will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served that were on the other side of the river, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you dwell. That's Joshua 24:15 if you want to look it up, by the way. So maybe that was the answer. The Hawaiian gods were the only ones that didn't assert their dominance in any of this, and I had lived in their land. Maybe that's where I needed to look for guidance. So I sent X a message and I asked to talk. He may have left a monastery, but he still was very much connected with the spirits of Hawaii. It's something that we would talk about often when we did talk. And that's what I wanted to talk with him about now. We talked about the Hawaiian gods. I asked him who he thought I might connect with. X didn't really have an answer to that question, but something else was pressing on his mind. "I have this strong feeling, Allie," he said. "You need to light a candle and meditate." I didn't know what to make of that, but I thanked him and we ended the call eventually. Within 10 minutes of ending that call, my phone rang again, and this time it was Holden. We talked for a bit. Things were still strained between us, but we were trying, and then mid-sentence, he stopped. "Stop, Thor. Fine, I'll tell her." I waited, very confused. Holden sighed. "Allie, you need to light a candle and meditate." "Huh?" I was stunned. What? "Thor says that there's something you need before you can move on spiritually. I don't know what it is. He just says that you need to light a candle and meditate." Two people, 15 minutes apart, the exact same message. X and Holden had never met. They had never spoken. I'd never even told them about each other. They were on opposite ends of the earth, one in Hawaii and the other in Florida. They had no way of coordinating this, and yet both were saying the same thing. The next day, I did what they said. I lit a candle, I closed my eyes, and immediately I thought, how silly is this? How will I even know if I'm actually talking with Thor? My heart began to race, I started hyperventilating, and I nearly fell to the floor. With my mind's vision adjusted, there was a Norseman standing before me, and he identified himself as Thor. "You need to apologize," he said. "I need to what?" "You need to apologize for whoa, damn." It hit me. 8 years earlier, at the 2013 gathering, I had named my staff as a weapon against the gods. I had told them, all of them, if they ever came before me again, I would use it against them. I had told them to leave me alone. I had effectively told them to fuck off. Yes, that's what I told them. Thor turned me around, and suddenly I was facing several gods, a whole assembly of beings I had rejected. I didn't know what to say. I fumbled through the only framework I had for making things right at this point. Ho'oponopono, a Hawaiian practice of reconciliation I had stumbled across online randomly. "I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you." I fumbled through it, but I meant it. When the meditation ended, I called Holden back. "Did Thor tell you what he wanted my attention for?" "No." "Why?" I explained, and as I did, Holden had the same reaction I had. "Apologize for what?" "Oh, during the... Oh, shit." And then something else dawned on me. I wrote down everyone who had been present at the waterfall when I dropped my Christianity. Every single person, with one exception. Cade, my Norse student who had essentially, looking at it, filled in for Holden during the parts of the ceremony, had also been present at the 2013 blot, including the one who broke the beer glass and yelled at the gods for having that piece of glass to name. All of them. There were people we had wanted to come to the gathering who didn't make it. We didn't plan it this way, but it happened exactly as though it had been orchestrated from the beginning. Again, I still believe the mistake with Ingrid was mine alone, a human error, human blindness. But the gods, maybe they had set the stage. Holden had invited Supe, a god of death, and I had technically worked with Supe before, during Flint's Samhain ceremony in Okinawa, the shamanic journey that had taken me back to the staff that very jetty. All the chess pieces had been moved into place, and I hadn't seen it until now. In the month that followed, I worked on apologizing to all the gods. First, a blanket apology to everyone I had told to leave me alone in that 2013 ceremony, and then individual apologies. One to Isis, the goddess Flint had served. I should mention, I never told you this during the Okinawa episode, but during one of the pagan rituals, a goddess had spoken through someone and yelled at me for not placing my faith in any god. Well, that goddess was Isis, and she used Flint to do it, and frankly, I owed her an apology for my stubborn refusal to commit. And then to Amamikyo and her brother Shinrikyo, Okinawan deities connected to the land I had walked in the ceremonies I had participated in, and the one who told me to be part of that ceremony. And finally, to the Hawaiian gods. Well, during the blanket apology, something unexpected happened. The spirits gave my staff a name. Wailele is the Hawaiian word for waterfall. I still didn't know at the time that my staff was a shepherd's crook. That realization would come about a month later, but the name landed with weight I couldn't fully understand yet. Once the apologies were completed, I reached out to the Hawaiian gods in a ceremony. even using kava, which is awful, by the way. I don't know exactly how kava bars stay open. I also don't understand how you're supposed to get a feeling off of them, and I got nothing. It's not really relaxing. It's just, give me hot coffee any day. Anyways, I asked for a guide, someone to help me understand Ho'oponopono more deeply. Not just the words, but the practice. The tradition of reconciliation that I was clearly stumbling through. The being who responded wasn't who I expected. I was expecting maybe a healing deity or a deity of water. But who I got was the Hawaiian god Ku. I knew some of his story because I'd researched the Hawaiian gods, so I'd have a foundational knowledge if any of them reached out. And Ku was a god of war, but also of many other things: prosperity, fishing, sorcery. He had a complicated history with human sacrifice, though that practice itself, I would find, was also complicated. What I didn't expect was his first question. Will you let me accept you as my daughter? I was taken aback. This wasn't how I imagined a relationship with a god would begin. I was more just looking for a teacher, not worship, not anything. Definitely not a, would you be a member of my family? After a few moments, I agreed. Ku worked with me over the following months. He taught me about forgiveness, not the shallow kind that says it's fine when it isn't, but the deep work of making things right. Through his story and the cultures that had worshipped him, I began to understand what reconciliation actually required. And eventually, how Christianity played a role in Ku overcoming human sacrifice. Yes, I know, how very colonist of me, that Christianity somehow helped a god overcome something. But seriously, this story is deeply entrenched in the fabric of Ku's story throughout, if you really study it. And it wasn't something I was trying to find. It just happened. And then, while I was beginning my work with Ku, the dream returned. It had been over 2 years since I had personally been in this dream. I wasn't trying to find it. In fact, I wasn't even asleep. I was trying to perform a different kind of meditation. A meditation focused on something different, looking at myself, finding things I needed to work on to repair my personality after the incident with Holden and Ingrid. But I wasn't getting those results. Instead, every time I entered the meditation for weeks, I found myself somewhere else. The amphitheater. My amphitheater. The one from the recurring dream that had followed me for now over 20 years. The place where people connected to suicide would gather in pooling water while a fisherman cast his line where there were no fish. But this time it was different. The amphitheater was empty. No crowd, no one on the edge of death, just me, the flooded stage area, and the fisherman. After a few times of finding myself back there, I gave in. I walked over and sat down next to the fisherman. "Hello," I said. He silently acknowledged my presence with a smile, but he kept fishing. And after what felt like 5 minutes of silence, I asked the question that had been puzzling me for years, the question I had never had the courage to ask before, even though I'd seen him countless times.
You're always here, but there's no fish. Why do you fish when there are no fish to catch?
He smiled again and said nothing. I waited, the silence stretched, but no answer came. So I tried a different question. "What is your name?" And he looked at me. He said, "What do you call me?" I thought about it and I said, "I guess I call you Fisherman." He nodded. "That's all you need to call me." We sat there together for a little while longer, and then I came out of the meditation. I was pretty frustrated. I had finally sat with the fisherman. After 20 years, I finally asked
the questions I had, and I got nothing. No explanation, no revelation, just a smile and a non-answer. I told a few friends about the meditation. People had already known about the dream, and none of them really could figure out what to make of it either. The dream and the meditation scape stopped after I talked with them. I tried to get back into the amphitheater in my meditations, but I couldn't find it anymore. The door had been closed. I didn't know who the fisherman was. I didn't know why he had waited all those years. I didn't know why he fished where there were no fish. But I was going to find out, and when I did, I would feel very, very foolish for not seeing it sooner. And if you are listening to this and you figured it out before me, go ahead and write it in the comments. I'm just curious. How oblivious was I? I am Alethea, and this is Wandering Sinai.